We're
Hey
about
everyone,
to catch
thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse.
So yeah, he's been very, very right on a lot of stuff. And Crypto Ben, or Benjamin Cohen, because, you know, not to confuse with BitBoy, has been bullish on Ethereum going up. And he's actually been bearish. The only thing he missed out on is calling XRP that it will drop because it's very risky, but he was wrong. So he's not right on everything, but he is right on the most of the stuff. And on some little things, he's wrong. So the most important is he's right 90% of the time, which right now you can see that he's looking at the patterns and where we will go from here.
You're investing $1,000 into crypto.
So yeah, I think the days where you can turn $1,000 into, you know, 20,000 in 1 year are gone, but it's still possible to, you know, make 3x, 5x. So we have to stay realistic, because the longer crypto exists, the harder it is going to be to make these massive gains, especially if you're not buying these new type of tokens. But then again, like, so many coins are coming in. You know, I never expected XRP to go from 50 cents to $3.5.
So if you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the sale on Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. Let's go ahead and jump in. So we do this video about every 6 months, right? There's actually a playlist. If you're interested, there's a playlist on the channel called Modern Portfolio Theory, and you can see, you know.
Yeah, so it seems like $1,000 right now. This is going to bring plenty of crypto investors as well. So here's what he says. Portfolio is 83% Bitcoin and 16% Ethereum.
65% annualized. Now that might seem crazy, right? That might seem crazy. If you go over to the Bitcoin chart, you look at just 12-month candles, you can kind of see what I'm talking about, right? So
we went literally from 2013 and 10 years, 12 years, we went to 118K. Again, nobody can give 65% returns except Bitcoin.
You know, 2023, 155%. Last year, 121%, right? This year has been 27% so far. So you can see how, on average, it might end up being about that, especially if you factor in a bear market year, right? Like,
yeah, so even on bear markets, Bitcoin still decided to give returns every 4 years. Same with XRP. If you hold for 12 years, again, you would be 300x. I don't know any other crypto that if you hold 10 years, it goes 300x up.
1 year you're down 65%, and then the next 3 you're up between 27 and 155%. Then on average, it kind of makes sense. All right, about 60 to 65% annualized return. Noting,
so 60 to 65% return in crypto, when literally XRP went up what? It went up at least 300% in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I'm guessing I'm going to go on safe play here and say last 2 months has been absolutely exploding.
that some years you're going to get cooked, more than likely, right? You're going to get cooked because the markets are going to go down approximately every 4 years. Now, how do we come up with a weight? How do we come up with a weight? Well, there's this formula called the Sharpe ratio. Now, the Sharpe ratio is the return of a portfolio, RP, minus the risk-free rate, RF, divided by the standard deviation of the portfolio's excess return. What the hell does that mean, right? Well, the return that we're looking at in this case is based on
return of portfolio risk-free rate, standard deviation of the portfolio's excess return. So most people want to know if they should invest like $1,000 in crypto. That's what most people are asking me right now. But Ben actually goes into detail on how this works. So he's calling the bottoms over here, and basically over here, he's calling the bottom for Bitcoin ETH ratio. So I feel like, you know, Ethereum and retail investors are just about to get back. That is why I keep making these videos, because right now what we are seeing is more and more retail coming back at an all-time high.
Again, right? Doesn't mean it can't do that. It probably will. Like, I mean, it could go up, it could come back down, right? It could do something like this. But in this case, this whole idea has worked out incredibly well. So now, I would argue, ever since ETH went home, taking on more risk with it has worked out.
So yeah, most people who are right now, you know, going for all ETH are going to be expecting return. It seems like Ethereum and XRP, like Ethereum and Bitcoin are the winner right now. But, you know, what I don't suggest is like holding, again, not financial advice, holding random coins. But you can see here that people who are going strong right now are basically XRP, Bitcoin, and it's not Solana, it's BNB. It's like maybe 4 or 5 coins that really explode, and all the others are still waiting to pump. So everything else, we're still waiting for a major pump or like a major different reach. So here you can actually see these have pumped, right? And XRP is one that no analyst could have predicted, because what happened with XRP is literally after the election, after the lawsuit, it went from like 20 cents to 50 cents to $3. And it's very, very hard to predict that. That's what caught everyone off guard.
Buy it. You see these massive candles? These candles to the downside significantly impact the risk-adjusted returns, because you know that at some point you might just see XRP drop 70 to 80% against Bitcoin, and that's what.
So yeah, he's calling about XRP, holding XRP, and why most people don't hold XRP. Look, he's actually made a graph on investing on XRP coins, and this is what he said.
It only suggests single digits for that cryptocurrency. Because yes, it's done well recently, but this is not just based on what it's done this year. It's based on what it's done every year since 2015.
So every single year, XRP has actually pumped compared to Bitcoin. In
this case. And if you look at like monthly candles for the XRP Bitcoin ratio, you'll see that like, look at these massive red candles. Buy it. You see these massive candles? These candles to the downside significantly impact the risk-adjusted returns, because you know that at some point you might just see XRP drop 70 to 80% against Bitcoin, and that's what's leading to it to be sort of a lower amount. So in this case, you might notice that this chart looks a lot different than just with Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's because it's three-dimensional now, right? In terms of the number of assets. Now you're looking at 3 of them, and the sort of this line up here, this is the efficient frontier. The red line down here, you don't want to be down here. Why don't?
So yeah, 50%. He's saying that basically anyone holding XRP is gonna be in bad words. So he's saying that holding Bitcoin, like everything Bitcoin, is good, but everything like holding, you know, not Bitcoin is bad.
Down here, you don't want to be down here. Why don't you want to be on the lower part of the chart? Because in this case, you're taking on the same volatility as someone up here, but this person has a much higher expected return than you do. Right? You see the difference? You want to be on the efficient frontier, which is this line up here. This is called.
So yeah, he's saying here that it's better to hold, you know, like not everything XRP. Because potentially if XRP drops, like as it has historically, the thing is with XRP is what I'm worried, we never saw XRP's prices before the lawsuit. So all we saw XRP's prices after the lawsuit. So all we saw is XRP prices before the lawsuit, right?
All right, in terms of the number of assets, this is what maximizes your risk-adjusted returns, right? How do you know? It looks like you ran 50,000 simulations, but what if you ran 100,000 or a million? Would it change? And you're right, a Monte Carlo simulation does have its drawbacks, because you always wonder, had you run 50,000 more, would you get different results? Fortunately, in mathematics, we have other tools that we can use, in this case, quadratic programming. And by using quadratic programming, it allows us to identically solve for things like the Sharpe ratio to really be in there.
So he's saying here, modern portfolio theory, Bitcoin, ETH, USD. So people holding USD, he's saying it's best to hold 61% of Bitcoin, 12% of ETH, and 28% of USD. So this portfolio he has is actually that he shouldn't hold any XRP in that sense. It's worrying.
Well-known people have done this recently. I won't mention any names, but you know, they'll shill XRP or Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever it is, right? They'll shill it at a very high level, right? They'll be like, all right, buy Ethereum or buy Bitcoin or buy XRP, and then the market will drop. And they will have said nothing about having any cash at the highs. But then they'll bull post the entire way down. And then when it's back up here, then they'll say, see, I told you I was right, right? But
so yeah, does seem like these spikes that we see with XRP are completely normal.
Problem is, had you listened to their view, you would have already been all in right here at 4K for Ethereum. So when it went home, you would have had nothing to buy it with, you know? And so what ends up happening, I've seen this happen so many times, right? Someone will be bullish on it way up here. They'll be bullish on it. They'll mention nothing about having any cash whatsoever, right? They'll just say cash is trash, don't have it. Then it'll drop 65%, and then they'll say they're buying. And I want to say, with what? With what?
Yeah, so don't buy your XRP basically at the top is what he's saying. Like a lot of people get their XRP at 3.5. The thing is we already always see like the big top.
If you were already 100% allocated over here, what are you buying it with down here? And that's the problem with, you know, a lot of influencers is that there's no accountability, right? Like they won't ever mention the idea of, hey, it might be a wise idea to have some cash in case this outcome plays out. And then they give me a lot of flack for it because I'm willing to say, look, Ethereum's going to go home.
So yeah, right now we never expected this to, like this was 2025, right? But we never expected these price crashes of 2022, 2023. Like nobody like some analysts predicted that and some whales, but most people, like most retail investors, did not realize we are going to be seeing Ethereum at $1,000.
And then I'll give a range and I'll say, all right, it'll probably bottom between 1,200 and 1,500. That is what I said. And then I put out a video when it went below 1,600 and I said I was buying, right? I said, this is good enough for me. It's like you ran.
So yeah, his scenario here is saying not to hold any XRP because while you will get same returns for much more risk. That is what he's saying. So if you hold 90% XRP, again, he said historically, but I'm willing to bet that this could potentially change, I'm hoping. So that is where it's really going to be big. Simulation. To find the best risk-adjusted Sharp portfolio, each represents a portfolio made with certain coins composition. An expected return of 1.0 means a return of 100% annually. So if you were 90% XRP, again, this was during the lawsuit times, during the 9 years, you would have made still a 60% return. The Sharp ratio is a ratio of expected return volatility, the highest Sharp ratio for a given composition, therefore, given the chart, expected return for least amount of volatility. So yeah. I feel like the thing with XRP, it's very hard to be grasped in how bad that lawsuit was from the SEC. I think he's biased towards XRP. Yeah, that's the thing. He did call that XRP will never go up historically, like based off the chart. So I know it's very hard to understand some people who are watching here because this is like going deep into analytics. This is not just another, video. Hello. It's not just another simple video. It's very in-depth on what he does. And he's a very smart person. He was a quantum trader, Benjamin Cohen. But here's where I feel like that, XRP could give potential returns because this is the key factor. So of course there's like growth from just, looking at the markets, right? From market side. But then you have news growth. Then you have partnership growths. Retail investors flocked 2021 for Ethereum. That's why it went up so much. But 2025, with the banks coming in, this could make the real returns. And anyway, even if you are mostly XRP, mostly holding XRP, he's still saying you will be making 62% historically. Now, it will probably be way less. He's saying here that you would make way less if you hold Bitcoin. Now, if you hold 80% Ethereum, it's way riskier, right? But you still get like great returns. So like if you hold 90% XRP, you still made 62% a year. Much more risk, but still 62% is 62%. So that's the most important factor. Yeah, this is the least risk holding Bitcoin. It's the safest option. That's why institutions are buying it. And that's what I'm trying to explain to you guys. But at some point, I feel like a lot of these institutions will buy XRP. You know, right now, they are going for Bitcoin because it's the safest buy. Again, in a few months or years, with banks, partnerships, XRP will get more stable, or it already is more stable. This 1 to 2 years, it might be the big change. So, you know, $1,000 is very hard to check where to put it, but he's making a very clear example, saying if you put 90% ETH, it's going to be way more crazy, right? It's going to go one down, and it's going to give expected returns much differently in that sense.
Well, we don't have really that many in there because, you know, we just don't have a lot of data for a lot of newer altcoins. It's just not as useful, because if an altcoin launched a month ago and it's only gone up since then, and you're going to compare it to Bitcoin, then it's gonna make everything look out of whack, because it's not going to know. It's been around for a while, and it's been in like the top 5, top 10 for a really, really long time. So whether you like it or not, is that it has been around
What's he saying about XRP?
for a longer period of time, and that's why you can use something like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and even XRP. And I know there's a lot.
So yeah, look, he didn't mention XRP. So I'm wondering what he mentioned about XRP here, and I'm also focused on Ethereum.
Altcoin launched a month ago, and it's only gone up since then.
So yeah, we do have data. The problem is we need it. Ethereum is controlled by China. XRP should have a real good home in the US. That's a very good point. That's an amazing point. But anyone can start a new blockchain. The thing is, XRP needed like 12 years to do that type of blockchain, right? It's very hard to have a blockchain and the partnerships. It takes 12 years. You have to build basically ICO 20,000 or 200,000, 222, whatever it was. And then you have to build all these partnerships with the banks as well. You can be a competitor to Ethereum. That's what HBAR is. That's what XLM is. But when you build a blockchain, it's going to cost you a lot of money. You will need some partnerships, because if nobody's using your blockchain, look at Shiba Inu. Shiba Inu launched its own blockchain and everybody forgot about it. They spent millions of dollars, and because they have no people knowing how to use that blockchain, literally everyone switched to XRP, right? So you need big people that will probably pump money of these blockchains. And there is data, you know, to back this up.
And you're going to compare it to Bitcoin, then it's gonna make everything look out of whack, because it's not going to know what the potential downside is for that altcoin if it hasn't yet gone through a bear market. So that's why you have to only use assets that have been around for a longer period of time, and that's why you can use something like Bitcoin.
So yeah, I feel like the markets right now are still not gonna. You can check the past, but the issue is with this new crypto regulation, we are going to throw away everything that we've seen in the past, and we're going to bring in the new. You know, before, US was really bearish on anything crypto. And this completely changes the crypto narrative we see now, right? This completely changes what people feel about XRP, because I remember I was bearish on XRP with the lawsuit. So that's why, so imagine, like, if people were not bearish, do you think whales would not buy at 30 cents? No, it was 20 cents. Nobody wanted it. It was 30 cents. Nobody wanted it. What happened? It dropped down to 12 cents. And that's when people started buying. So that's the very important factor. Immediately, the same day Trump got into office, immediately, XRP pumped 20-30%. Again, does this not tell you something? If a crypto coin on an inauguration day pumps 20-30%, this to me tells that institutions are buying, because they realize that Trump for the next 4 years is going to look very good for crypto. So yeah, it is looking like this market trends we see right now, they're a good indicator that Bitcoin is always going to win, but there's going to be plenty of other cryptos that will win. Basically, it's not just Bitcoin at this point. The entire history is